Okay, so we'll start let's go with Japinder.
Yes, sir.
So Japinder, tell me, how do you manage multiple organizations in Salesforce Classic?
Okay. So, presently, we are not using Classic anymore. We have like shifted to Lightning. So we are maintaining the orgs in Lightning, not in Classic.
But my question is, how do you do it in Classic? And if you don't know
So
how
if
to do it in
we
Classic, how will you tell them?
So if we still need to do in classic, if the client requires to do it in classic, it's the same. Like we can like create leads in that. We can create accounts. But the process is more like easier in Lightning as compared to classic. So
Unfortunately, the current project is not yet migrated to Lightning, so it is still in Classic. So if at all you are assigned a task to create an organization or manage organizations in Classic, how do you do it?
so it would be like almost similar, just the interface will be different as compared to Lightning, but rest the procedure will be same, like the same user management will be there, company information we need to update same as we do in Lightning, and adding and creating leads, like almost everything will be same, but the user interface will be different.
Okay, let's go to Sumit.
Yes.
Sumit, let's say you are monitoring the infrastructure.
Yeah.
There are 10 VMs and you are monitoring the 10 VMs and you are setting that monitoring in Datadog.
Okay.
So can you tell me, how do you set up monitoring for those 10 VMs?
So yes, so we use Ansible for installing the Datadogs to all the VMs and a Datadog agent. And after the Datadog agent, it shows us on the Datadog server. So in Datadog server, we used to see the availability of all the servers, and we regularly check the performance of all the servers. So to check the performance and the storage, there is a graph and SLIs what we use. So the performance metrics uh, we use to see all the graphs. So there are lots of uh, storage. We regularly check the storage and the availability of all the VMs.
So why are you using we every time?
So we work as a team. That's why.
But I'm asking, how do you do it?
Okay.
I did not ask you how did your team do it. If the minute you use the word we, then interviewer can easily know that you have not worked on that in real.
Yeah. It's
Instead, you can,
intuition. It intuitionally comes. We.
yeah, that is what you have to practice, not to use we and always use I.
Okay, sir.
Yeah. Okay, let's take Priyanka. What are the different steps involved in cleaning the data?
Uh, Once you get the raw data, you have to check whether uh, the data format is correct, and then you have to see if there are any nulls, and you can remove the nulls, and also uh, mm, pretty much like depends on the client's requirements. The cleaning means it's not just that if there are any uh, like faulty data or anything, but it's just once you get large amount of data, but for the requirements you might need a little amount or few columns. So first you change it into Excel sheet, or you can either make it as a CSV format file or anything. And after that, once you have the data in rows and column format, you have to see which columns are required. So those are the things we do when we do data cleaning.
No, that is wrong. Jyoti, can you tell the answer for that? I need 5 bullet points of what you do in data cleaning.
Yes, sir. Before coming data, we have to first check is the data is very huge or not. If it is not that much of huge, we can use Python, Jupyter Python, and we can clean the data. In case sometimes if the data is very huge, we have to use Databricks to handle huge amount of data. Once we know what is the where we have to collect source data using read.csv command, we have to read the data, and we have to check null values. If there is any null values, using filna command, we have to check is there any null values. Sometimes what will happen, some duplicate values also there. So we are using drop dot duplicate. We have to remove all duplicate values. Sometimes what will happen, client wants to use some extra information. For example, we have a monthly data, but client wants to use last 5 months data. Then based on that one, we have to create one aggregation column, and we have to use that one. Later, once we clean the data using write.csv command, we have to store the data in the destination.
What is the question?
How to clean the data, sir?
So how to clean the data? So
Yeah.
what are the cleaning steps?
Cleaning steps are first extract the data, later remove null values and remove duplicate values. Add some if any aggregation functions are there, we have to add aggregation columns, and later any rename also. If you want to change any column name also, we can change the column name. Later we can transfer the data to destination.
Okay, good. So these are the points you have to tell Priyanka. You missed a lot of points.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so Monica, coming back to Sumit's question, let's say there are 200 VMs where you need to install Datadog monitoring agent so that all the 200 VMs can be monitored in Datadog. So tell me the automation process to install Datadog monitoring agent into all these 10 VMs, sorry, 200 VMs.
Maybe I can use, sorry, I use Terraform to automate this, to install the Datadog agent. So I use Terraform and Jenkins to automate this. So
How do you do it?
I install Terraform plugin in Jenkins. That's how I integrate Terraform and Jenkins, and I create a repo in GitHub, and I will integrate Jenkins and GitHub, and I will write some the script to install all these VMs, and I'll create the variable.
Why is Terraform used to install an agent in a VM? Terraform is used to create,
Okay.
delete, or update the infrastructure.
Right. So we use the Ansible, sir. I haven't worked with Ansible yet. For configuration, we use Ansible, right?
Yeah, so how do you do it? I want to know the approach.
I haven't worked with Ansible yet, sir.
So you don't have Ansible in your resume at all?
I do have it, but I have to go. I know how to like. I don't know how to write the playbooks. I know a bit concepts, sir.
So let's say all these 200 VMs are Windows VMs.
Okay.
So
So I
now
can use PowerShell or Azure DSC, PowerShell DSC to automate this.
so tell me how do you do it through Azure DSC?
So I will write a configuration file first. In configuration file, I will update everything. Like I will write like what the name of the VM and resource group of the VM, and write everything in the configuration file. And I will create a.
This configuration file located.
So we have this configuration file in I got this from like PowerShell.
Yeah, I don't know. You tell me.
Okay, so I wrote this configuration file in PowerShell. So I have this configuration file with me, and then I have created the Azure DSC, and then uploaded this configuration file. And yeah, so I compiled.
Where did you upload this configuration file?
When we create the automation, Azure automation, we will create the runbook. So in runbook, you will get an option called to
Runbook is in Azure DSC or is it in Git?
Git. Except Git have a runbook. It has webhook, right? Git.
Hmm.
Yeah. So Git has webhook. I think Azure DSC it has runbook. So we will update the configuration file in here, and then we will compile it, and we can do the test. We can run the test first, and to see if there are any errors, and then we can do the actual test.
I'm still not convinced. I'm still not understanding what is the approach you follow.
Okay, sir, I will go through the Ansible and this concept again. Sir, I'm very confused with Azure DSC, sir. Like where we will get the from where we will get the, like if we write the configuration file.
Yeah, the best way to do that, to understand that, is to write one, do one project, small lollipop project on how to update the VMs. At least take to create 2 VMs in Azure.
Okay.
And set up Azure DSC. Add those Azure DSC in the add those 2 VMs in Azure DSC.
Okay.
And then write a PowerShell DSC script. Pull that PowerShell DSC script from Git and tell Jenkins to connect to Azure DSC using a service principal and run this PowerShell DSC script. Simple. You have to implement it to know better.
Right. Okay, sir.
Yeah, we mentioned Azure DSC as a top line in your resume.
Yeah.
So if you're not able to tell, even this is a very fundamental question, like how do you update some changes in a Windows VM through Azure DSC. So if you are not able to explain even the fundamentals, then they doubt that you have any experience with DSC.
Okay, sir. With this Azure DSC, we can say that I have installed Datadog agents, like your question.
Yeah.
I did it like this.
Yes.
Okay. And the configuration file, we don't get the configuration file for them from the manager or something, right? We write it, and
Yeah.
we have that in GitHub.
You have to study.
Okay, sir.
So Yugandhar, it's been a long time I touched you. So
Yes, sir.
So you are a DA, DS, DA, DE, DS, DML, right?
No, sir, DAD. Those many I couldn't.
Okay. See, Yugandhar, there are is Databricks owned by Microsoft and is Azure specific, or Databricks is a universal framework? What is it like? What is Databricks?
So Databricks is majorly is about like for streaming things, like so when we have a big data when there is like we couldn't deal with the BA tools or something, like when we are doing data analysis and all those things, when you're processing the data from different sources. So big data couldn't be handled easily with Azure and all. So we include Databricks for streaming, like any interruptions and all, like any changes, automated changes and all. So to deal with the multiple different kind of formatted data into from when stored in a data lake storage account, because Azure is mostly the thing is about dealing with these storage accounts and handling the data which we have in structured formats and all, and which we are converted into particular formats when we segregated it. But Databricks can handle that data even in the streaming time, like in the processing situations also. So big data can be easily understand, and we can create automated environment in the Databricks compared to Azure. Yeah, it is also comes under Microsoft, but mostly Azure is the major one owned by the Microsoft.
So Harjot, so AWS Databricks exists and Google Cloud Bricks exist. Is it true or false?
False, sir.
False. Why
Yes.
so?
Sir, because like first of all, Databricks was its own company, and after that, they paired with the Microsoft Azure, not with the Amazon, with the other ones.
So they did not pair up with Amazon yet?
No.
Are you sure?
Yes.
Okay, very good. So who all, besides Azure, who all they are paired up with?
I know with the, I think it's only paired with the Azure, sir, yet, not with the anyone else.
No, Databricks is used by so many other people.
I know the Azure, but except that I don't know with who exactly he's paired with.
You see here? You see here?
Yes, sir.
Databricks on AWS allows you to store. Databricks on Google Cloud brings more open lake house platform. It is there in Alibaba Cloud also. Currently, Databricks is there on all these clouds.
Oh, yeah.
And Microsoft has taken initiative because it is also a joint partner in developing Databricks. You see here?
Yes, sir.
From Databricks and Microsoft. So the answer to the question is true. Understood, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so Saket, how do you create an MLOps pipeline? Okay, I'll give you a case study. Okay, so there is election data on development environment, staging environment, and production environment. Okay, so you need to create an MLOps pipeline, train the data, and use that training model to work on the production data.
Okay.
So tell me, how do you create an MLOps pipeline to train data?
Oh, sir, MLOps I need to prepare, sir. I'm only towards the side of hardcore machine learning, but MLOps I didn't touch it. So I have to stop.
Any ML engineer has to go through MLOps only.
Yes, but I mean, I that wasn't. I wasn't preparing for that, sir. I just had the. I mean, like I can give you the services in AWS for MLOps, not the open source.
Whatever it is, you can create the MLOps pipeline in AWS only. How do you do it?
Okay. Then just a second, sir. Let me write it down, sir. I get an idea. Yes. So, yes, sir. So I basically start training my data, and so basically I gather my data from different sources. Let's just say I have the data of
Data
images.
is already there. Data is
Okay.
already there in a DynamoDB.
Okay. So okay, fine, sir. So then so basically I spin up AWS SageMaker service, and then I'll gather the data from DynamoDB into Amazon SageMaker, and then I'll train my model, and then I'll try to tune my hyperparameters, and then I'll make sure that my model is giving the best result for the which is depending on the task.
No, I'm
So
asking more about how do you create an MLOps pipeline to do
yes,
all these things.
yes, okay. So basically, once my model is trained, I'll be getting the
How do you
binary
train
file.
it? How do you train it with the MLOps pipeline?
Oh,
You have to train means, you see, everything MLOps means what? You do all the machine learning activities through a pipeline. First you pull the data,
yes,
then you train the data.
yes,
Even before training the data, you will run through some classification model.
exactly. Yes, sir.
Okay, you create a data set and then you run the training on the data set, and
Yes,
then you will store the trained data somewhere,
yes, sir. Yes,
right? So after the
yes,
trained data, you have to run through something more, right?
yes, yes, sir.
Yes.
Okay.
After you do
We'll
all,
be creating the endpoints. We'll be creating the endpoints, and then we'll spin up the AWS Lambda serverless function, and then we create an API gateway, which in turn gives the opportunity for the end user or the client to access the algorithm with the help of AWS Lambda. Once the model is uh, deployed.
okay, you need to prepare more on this. Or the
Okay.
answer you told is
Sir,
wrong.
I mean, the question is too it's too generic, sir. Like, how do you so if it is a process, then I can explain you the process, sir. But
No, the
if
question
it
is
is the
very simple. I gave you data. Tell me,
okay,
how do you implement machine learning on that data using a pipeline? That is the question.
okay,
Very
okay,
simple
sir.
question.
Yes, sir. That is actually good question, but I didn't prepare in
So,
that point of view.
Nagini, what is same thing, same question, but with a different use case? Like I asked the question to Jyoti. So for Jyoti, I gave 1 petabytes of data. So Nagini, how do you create a data pipeline to clean that data? Explain the steps.
So is the data, my data is in Azure blob storage,
Your data is in Azure Data Lake.
data lake. Okay. My data is in Azure Data Lake. I create a pipeline in Azure Data Factory and create a link service. First, create a link service from Azure Data Lake to from source data, and create a data set. After that, debug the data, validate it, and debug the data set for from source data to destination. Uh, and it is the process. That's it.
I mean, what is there in the pipeline? Pipeline means there should be a step, right? What are the steps in the pipeline? What is step 1 in the pipeline, step 2 in the pipeline, step 3 in the pipeline? So what is the source and destination in each of these steps?
The source is Azure Data Lake Gen 2, and the destination is, I mean, I'm not sure about the destination. It should be Data Lake Gen 2 itself. Oh, this is what I know, sir.
So Susila, can you answer this question?
Yes, sir. So our source is in data lake. So in data factory, first we create data flow. In the data flow, we validate like how many number of columns are there. After
Why are
data
you
validation,
using we? Why are you using we again?
oh, sorry, sir. So I first validate the data, like how many columns are there. After validating the data to the number of columns, I use first select statement, like which columns are needed for us. After selecting the columns, I look for duplicate rows. Then I remove the duplicate
Again,
rows.
you are telling me data cleaning activities. I'm asking you, how will you implement those steps in a pipeline?
So in a pipeline, in data flow diagrams, we have no, sir. We can choose options over there. Select statement, and we can choose filter options.
So that let's say that step 1. What is step 2?
So after data is being cleaned, then
Sir, are you
we
asking about copy data, like data activities in pipeline?
See, everything can be created as a pipeline, right? I mean, not
yeah.
anything. What is a pipeline? Set of activities, correct? Step
Yeah.
1, let's say Jyoti has told about 4 steps. Jyoti and Priyanka told about 4 or 5 steps. Okay, first
So
extract the
first
data.
I will validate the data, sir. Extract the data. Step 2
Validate
is
the
I'll
data is.
validate the data.
So how do
Okay.
you do step 1? So extracted data, where do you put it?
So extract the data, like we need a data set and link service. We create a data set and link service for Azure Data Lake. So after that, we validate the data. And after that, I select what are the columns needed using select statement, step 2. And after that, I will see if any duplicate rows are there, remove the duplicates. And step 4 is doing aggregation, like depending upon the what is that. Suppose the data is about 2-3 countries and the client needs about only 1 country. Then using filter, I will select the data for only 1 country. That is the step 4. And then step 5 is like I put it to the destination using a data set and linked service for data lake.
Okay. So Shahida, what is meant by curated data?
Curated data is nothing but applying various statistical and logical formulas to the data and get aggregated functions on it. And that's a curated data. By applying various aggregation functions, statistical formulas, and to make the data more aggregated and it's ready for analysis.
So what is the difference between raw and curated? So what is the gap?
Raw data consists of various errors, duplicates, null values, formatting issues, all those missing values, the headers is not in proper format. After that, after data cleaning, and we apply various aggregated statistical procedures. After that, it's called curated data.
Okay, so are we going to save the curated data in the same source or we use a different source?
Depends. Once the data is curated, it's ready for analysis, right? Keep it in the same source. And if you want to create visuals out of it, create visuals.
The general practice is they put it in a different destination just to make sure they don't mix up with the raw data again.
Data warehouse.
Yeah, maybe a warehouse or maybe a storage account or maybe a pure storage. It depends. But the concept here is it should be different.
Yes.
Sir, we can store in data lake in another file that can act as a staging area.
Yeah, storing like what Shashida said, storing in the same source is also fine, but practice is it should be different. Okay, Sri Lakshmi, what is the difference between your camera is off? What is the difference between a waterfall model and iterative model?
Sir, waterfall model, it is like a step-by-step process. Once the requirements are done, it goes to design phase. After design phase, it goes to coding. After coding, it goes to testing. And after testing, it goes to deployment and maintenance. Whereas in
Iterative.
in iterative model, it was done. Sir, I couldn't explain the difference.
Give it a try.
Okay.
So waterfall model is whatever you explained is correct. But then what is iterative? Okay, so see both waterfall and iterative are the same, but the difference is in a waterfall model you execute the whole project at once. You gather all the requirements at once, you design for the whole system at once, you code the whole system at once, you test the whole system, and you deliver the whole system. But in iterative model, you split that system into some iterations.
Okay, iterations. Okay.
And for each iteration, you follow all these steps: requirements, design, coding, testing, and deliver iteration 1. And again,
Okay.
an iteration 2, requirements, design, coding, and testing. Iteration 2. So in each iteration, you follow a mini SDLC. But in waterfall, you follow SDLC for the whole system at once.
Okay.
So which is better?
Iteration, sir. Iterative model.
Okay. Now, Radha, what is the difference between iterative method and agile method?
In iteration method, we we'll deploy the code in a different, like we are using SDLC in a 3 or 4 phases, and we'll deploy the product. While coming to agile process, we will schedule the project in an piece of in a 2 weeks or a 3 weeks. We will schedule it how the work is going on, like same SDLC requirement, and then requirement analysis and building the building the requirement and developing the code and testing and deployment. Here we'll do in the pieces like agile. We'll follow the agile methodologies. In agile methodologies, we'll follow like a scrum planning and scrum planning.
No, again, iterative methodology and agile is almost going to be the same. But the difference is, in iterative, you are doing each iteration. But in agile, you will split that iteration into small pieces again. But you don't do SDLC. You won't have requirements, design, coding, and testing. Design is done independently. Okay, based on the design, the requirements are given to execute. So the developer himself is expected to code, test, deliver, and integrate.
Sir, I have a question with Agile. So if they ask, do you follow Agile framework, what will be the best answer, sir? Like I usually say we use Jira and Confluence, and I attend
Which Agile framework are you using? So which Agile framework are you using?
Scrum.
Scrum and Agile are different.
Okay. Scrum is a meeting and Agile is a methodology. Daily.
So Vasavi, answer that question. Like which Agile framework are you using?
I would say Jira.
Jira.
Where are you? Okay. What is that?
I would say Jira.
These are all
tools. To follow.
These are all Agile. They are not Agile frameworks.
Okay, I should say the scalar methodology.
Bug tracking.
What's that, Vasavi?
There are like lean methodology and scalar methodology, right? That's what it is, right?
Yeah, scale methodology.
Oh, sorry, scale methodology.
Scaled Agile and lean Agile. Yeah. So everybody follows any one of these. By default, the Agile is lean, but if they ask specifically, the Agile can be a scaled Agile.
Okay. So if they ask like what are the things you do in Agile, like then what should we say in your company? Like I say, like we use Jira for ticketing tool, Confluence for documentation, and I participate in Scrum calls. We have stand-up meetings every day, and I have one-on-one meeting with my manager every 2 weeks, and every quarterly we have big meetings with the team to discuss about the plan to work on that particular quarter, and we will divide the task into epics. So I'll say like this. Is this correct or do we have to add?
Wrong. That is wrong.
Yeah, I thought.
I let some of the BAs answer it.
Okay.
So Saikiran, can you answer what all Agile activities that you do in your company?
Yes, sure. So we start off a project with project planning, and then we have the project kickoff meeting, and then regularly we will have the daily Scrum call, and then once the project is closed, we'll have the retrospective meeting. So these are the orderly process.
Okay. So planning, kickoff, retro, review, and closing. So we should say all these, right?
Yeah.
We ask activities. Okay. Thank you.
What Vasi?
Yes.
So you are a DADE, right?
Yeah.
Okay. If a large data set is given to you,
Okay.
how do you split that? Let's say 10 petabytes of data. How do you split that into smaller data sets? What guidelines or what criteria do you follow to split the data into smaller data sets?
I can use Power Query to no. Well, I don't exactly have an idea.
Rosalind?
Sir, we can run it through a pipeline and store in different, as per the requirement, we can separate it. We can partition it and store it in
No,
different.
I'm asking what guidelines and what criteria do you follow to separate them into smaller data sets?
Like as per date, we can separate like the recent date and the old date.
Maybe that is one criteria. What about others?
And
you can split it up by country. You can split it up by, say, departments. Any kind of category that you have, you can split it up to
Based on
partition the
the
data.
data types also, all
Yeah.
image data into one set, all text data, that is also can be one criteria. And yeah, there are so many criteria that you can follow. So this is one tricky question, which is very easy one, but they trick you into asking to see if you have really converted large data into smaller data sets. Okay, so Atul, given curated data, how do you curated data set? So how do you implement classification models? Can you explain the process? Are you there, Atul? I think some people join just for the sake of joining. That is the reason why I want people to have cameras. Am I audible, Atul?
Yes. Sorry, sir. I got a call. I was on call. That's why.
Okay. What is the question I asked you?
Actually, I was talking the phone. Actually, I got a call.
So if 1 petabyte of curated data is given to you, how do you add some modeling to the data? Tell me what is the process you follow.
So like 1 terabyte of data. If 1 terabyte of data is given to me, first I'll try to convert it to a file which I can use it for like large scalable amount. So I will convert it to a JSON, and then I'll convert it to a Parquet file. Parquet file is like more easily readable if we has a huge amount of data. So if it if we are less RAM also, then it will be like used. So first I'll convert it into Parquet file. Then I'll transform it to.
The entire data is converted into a Parquet file?
No, I'll first I'll try to convert it into a chunks of JSON file.
Okay.
Then I'll convert it to a Parquet file.
Okay. Why do you need to convert it into a Parquet file?
Because like it is serialized more convincingly, like more convenience, with more convenience given to the RAM wise. Like it will be, if I like it is more faster. It is more faster to load.
Okay.
Yeah. Then I'll try to do the all those transformation needed, and like I'll try to build a model upon that.
I was expecting a completely detailed answer.
Okay.
So converting it into Parquet file, but see,
yes,
you have to implement ML, so you have to do some classification modeling. You have to run some
yes,
analysis.
yes. So it will be dependent upon the problem statement and looking at the data, what the data says. First, I like to try all those methods. I'll try to find what are the, is there any null values? What are the relationship between the independent variables of the data? like I'll try to gather some information according to that. I'll try to fix the null values according to that. There are various methods, and I'll try to fix the null values, or like if the file like a transform file is given to me, then also I'll try to find the relationship between the data set.
The 1 terabyte of data which I told you is a curated data.
Okay, yeah, then
input. Then how do
yeah,
you
then
do?
also like I'll try to find the relationship between the independent variable, what the data says. Like I'll try to experiment with my own capabilities, what I can gather more information from the data, so that I can utilize that information in model building. I can't simply go and build a more like apply any fit on transformation on any one of them, because like it will not make any sense, because like if I'll not get to know what the data says, if it's a classification problem, I'll try to build a apply all those classification algorithm, or if it's a regression problem, I'll try to build a regression, I fit all the regression problem statement upon that.
So Shruti, let's say you are developing an Angular application, or a React application, or a simple HTML5 application, whatever it can be. And you are given a set of 100 APIs to be called in the application. So can you explain how the process of how do you integrate an API into the front end and call them?
In Angular, I'll make use of the HTTP client for interacting with the API, sir. I will be importing the HTTP client from angular.com and HTTP. And by using the services, I'll be creating an object with the service. And with the service, I'll be going to the, I will include the API in one service, and I'll be subscribing to the service according to the requirement.
So how do you do it in HTML5?
In HTML5, in HTML5, we don't interact with the API, sir. It's a presentation language.
See, front end is, it's a front end, but then some of the dynamic components, they have to pull data from somewhere, right?
Yes, but it's just a presentation. We'll write the logic in JS file, right?
Okay, so tell me, how do you write it in JS file? How do you call an API in JS then?
By using fetch, sir. I'll fetch. I'll be like calling the API using fetch, and I'll be storing it in the response.json file. I'll be converting the response to JSON, and I'll be extracting the data according to the requirement.
Okay, good. So how do you do the same in React, Richu?
In React for interacting.
Richu, that question was for Richu.
In React also, actually we use JavaScript itself, so we can use either use fetch, or you can use a third library called AXCS also. It's the same thing. Like
what is that?
In React, since React is a JavaScript library itself, it's a framework of JavaScript library. We can use the fetch function itself, or there are other third-party libraries you can use instead of fetch.
So Balaji, how do you deploy these APIs? Can you explain one of the API deployment project you might have done in the past? What tools you have used? How do you deploy APIs? I mean, Richu is waiting for APIs to be deployed so that he can call them. So how do you deploy APIs, and where do you deploy, and what tools do you use to deploy? Can you walk me through?
Yes. So first I would get the service name of the API, and this is where we will, sorry, I will, the host name of the specified host will be specified host field will be mentioned, and then I will edit the YAML file and add a section that contains a service name, and then I will use the YAML file and
I'm still not clear how you are deploying. You are a DevOps person, right?
Yeah.
So as a DevOps person, how do you deploy APIs?
So
Dheeraj has written 5 Java APIs. How do you deploy them? Okay. Go ahead.
Yes. So like, yeah, like with the API file, like I'll get the service name, and then sorry.
I will not understand. Aman, what are the services that are available in Azure for API specific ones? What are some of the API specific Azure services?
I don't remember, sir.
No. So in Azure, there are about 500 plus services, right?
Yes, sir.
Out of that 500 plus services, what services are there related to APIs?
Okay.
Azure API management gateway.
Yes, sir.
That is one. Are there any others?
Sir, I can't remember right now.
Azure App Service. Azure App Service is frequently used to run API.
Yes, sir. Sir, app service plans. Azure app service gateways. Then
App Service Gateway is different.
No,
API
okay.
Gateway is different.
Okay, sir.
Okay. So Dheeraj, tell me some of the API management tools that are used.
API management tools, Swagger UI.
Swagger UI is an API presentation tools. With
So-
Swagger, you cannot manage the APIs.
So I didn't understand the question. What is management?
What are some of the API management tools?
Managing the APIs.
There are so many. Kong.
Kong?
One, yeah. There are so many. There are so many in the market. Kong is one. Computer Associates is another.
So like, what is the management like? So what does these tools do? Like they.
Tell me what is meant by API management. You are a Java developer. Forget about the tools part. What do
Yeah.
you think are what is meant by API management?
To make sure that the API is up and running, and I'm just guessing. That's what I'm confused with. What is API management? What are the so I'm what I'm guessing is like the return data, like in what structure the data will be written from the API. They will provide some template, right, for the front end to consume so that they could manage the data maybe.
So these are the top 10 API management tools. You see here.
Okay.
Apache.
Okay, Apache.
Scale. Kong. And there are many MuleSoft, Dell Boomi, and see Azure API management, Computer Associates, which I told you. There are so many.
So what is API management, sir? API gateway. I'm really confused. I have no word.
You will definitely not clear the interview. See, as a developer, you code front end, you
Yeah.
code back end, you code APIs, right? API is a middleware.
Yes, sir.
So when you code the APIs, it can be like on a front end, you might be able to show the list of all people in Brampton.
Yeah.
But the list of all people in Brampton comes from an API.
Yeah.
To develop that API, the developer will, write a small SQL query behind. a Java file or a PHP script or whatever it is. It can be a Python script or whatever it is. In that script, he will write a small API script to query the people in Brampton to display. Right? So the query is developed by a database engineer, but the API to call that query is developed by a Java developer if it is a Java API, or a .NET developer if it is a .NET API.
Yeah.
But then imagine millions of the people call that API at the same time.
Okay.
What will happen?
It will crash.
It will crash.
Okay.
So then what do you have to do? You have to manage this API.
So to add more,
you have to put some cache on top of it.
Okay.
Right? You have to put, you have to avoid, what do you call, you have to avoid unwanted queries for that API.
So filtering out the.
Yeah, yes, you have to apply some filters. You have to authenticate whether the request is coming from the valid source or not.
Yeah, that is authorization and authentication
So
of
you
the
have
API.
this is authorization, security, caching, load balancing. All these things has to be done for the APIs.
Okay.
Right? So
can it be scaled?
What is that?
Can it be scaled?
Yeah, scaling, auto scaling also should be done.
Okay.
So to do all these things, there are API management tools like Apache, Kong, Azure API Gateway, all these things. So it's a huge science. That's called as a middleware. We have front-end engineers, we have back-end engineers, we have middleware engineers also.
Yeah.
So as a Java developer, if you ask me how to write APIs, then
It's not how to write APIs, but what is API management?
what is API management means what? When you are writing, can't you know what is API management?
Yeah. So authorization, authentication, scalability, auto scaling, these are all can be done, but I didn't know that there exists a tool that can manage everything at once.
Okay. So let's go to, we have 1 more minute. So we have so many people left, I guess. We did not touch Fanendra, Ahmed, but I'll ask the last question to Roshni. Roshni, what are the different reporting tools that can be integrated to the queries, SQL queries?
Different types of tools that can be integrated with
Reporting tools.
Okay, so one, it can be the visualization tool like Power BI and Tableau. Once we take out
Yeah,
the
I know you will tell those two, but I need more tools.
more tool, yeah, you can we can even connect with the MS Access for creating the forms, Tableau, Power BI for
MS
visualizing.
Access a reporting tool? I don't think so. I don't think it is a reporting tool.
We can connect to the tool.
But what are the other reporting tools that you can connect with the SQL queries besides Power BI and Tableau?
Yeah. Okay, so another tool. Reporting tool, or sir, any, it can be any like
Reporting tool. Can anybody answer? Like Mahesh?
Is it SSR, sir?
So I believe
SSRS,
Power
okay.
Power BI and Tableau, and then SSRS. It's
Yeah, Power BI, Tableau are done. So
yeah,
SSR.
it's done. So SSRS.
Some more?
machine learning also, sir.
No.
We can also connect with Excel, right? Excel is also
Tablet,
one of the
sir.
reporting tools.
Tabler.
Excel. What?
Excel is, sir.
Excel,
Excel
yeah.
is what? Jyoti, you're telling something?
Tablet, sir. Tabler.
What is Tabler? I did not hear about that tool. What is the spelling?
TABLER, sir. I think I'm. I have to say.
Okay.
Tablet, sir. In Tabler, we can create views. If data is very huge, instead of directly sending to Tableau, we can create views. We can create schema in Tablet, sir.
Okay, done. Next.
Sir, quick
Sir,
sense.
MS Access also, I think, sir. Access, Microsoft Access also, sir.
I doubt if Access is a reporting tool, but I will have to search more. Tell me more tools.
Sir, quick sense.
Quick Sense, yes.
SAS,
And
sir?
sir,
SAS,
Cognos,
yes.
Cognos or something.
Cognos, yes.
Yeah.
R, I think R also, sir.
R is
R is
Nine.
NIME, I don't know.
Okay.
R also, I think, because it will connect with so many tools. R should be also, I think.
Okay, so we will stop here. We had a very good technical discussion. So we will continue our discussion in the next mock interview. Okay?
Okay, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.